SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. Daily. 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 SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. Daily.
Zita Quinica is revealing how he spent most of the time on the bench that motivated him to reclaim his starting spot. And in athletics, Aman Duplantis soars to a third world title. We'll have the details just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. If you're driving into Joburg off Ekurhuleni, roadwork still there on the N17. Joburg bound, N17 westbound at Rondebolt Road. Traffic already starting to queue as you funnel into that single lane section. The N1 north through Deepcliff down to Uncle Charlie's. That looks busy already. Breakdown out of Durban to Pietermaritzburg at Ashburton has been clear. All lanes are reopened there from Ashburton through towards Market Road. Overnight closure tonight in Durban, Spaghetti Junction through to Spine Road at Pavilion. That's a full closure both ways. 8 p.m. it goes in, stays closed fully until 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. And Cape Town, bit of wet weather around the region. Take it easy. The N2 inbound already busy from Khayelitsha through to the airport. And Chapman's Peak Drive along the coast remains closed due to those adverse weather conditions. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It's just gone 8 minutes after 6 on this Tuesday, the 16th of September 2025, live from Radio Park Building at SABC HQ here in Auckland Park in Johannesburg to wherever you're hearing us from this morning. In every city, town, township, kasi, village and hamlet, from the highways to the byways, from the hinterland to the heartland. Good morning to you and welcome to it, the Tuesday edition of The Morning Brief. Here's some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours. And it's a quote here: "Where the DA governs, we govern better." And that has, for many, many years, been the mantra of the former opposition party, now National Government Coalition partner. Well, it seems they finally have the concurrence that matters, right? The concurrence coming from the quarters that matter on that assertion. In an extraordinary admission, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa conceding that the country's best-run municipalities are usually led by the Democratic Alliance. And not only that, urging ANC councillors not to be ashamed to learn from their rivals. Speaking at the ANC's roll call meeting of its councillors from around the country, and that meeting taking place in Johannesburg yesterday, Ramaphosa told the councillors to study municipalities like Cape Town and Stellenbosch and study how they are run and to emulate what works and take that. And it goes on to say it actually hurts deeply. Those were the words. It hurts deeply that ANC municipalities have regressed, with many failing audits and even, in his words, quote unquote, cooking the books. So he says every time the Auditor General presents findings and the municipalities that are performing well are DA municipalities, it hurts deeply for him to have to, concede that, that is the case in as far as governance is concerned. So what do you make of that? Is it a commendable, realistic grappling with the real governance situation on the ground, or a perfect electoral through ball for the DA ahead of the elections at local government level? I want to hear from you. You can weigh in on that throughout the morning. But importantly, we'll get our senior political journalist, Samgele Masego, to report back on that roll call of councillors. It had many features, including Gwede Mantashe, the national chairperson of the ANC, telling those councillors in that room who were trying to break out in song, telling them, stop, wait. We have enough singing councillors. But when it comes to capacity, in his words, dololo, they are found wanting as far as capacity to deliver is concerned. So, Guning, there's a lot to talk about. So we'll talk to Samgele Masego at the top of 7 with a report back on that. Turning to other issues also related to service delivery, the Water and Sanitation Minister, Phemi Majodina, colouring in some critical detail in accounting for the country's long-running water supply crisis, and confirming in that millions of rand have been spent on incomplete water infrastructure projects, leaving large communities without access to clean, safe water. So, the minister was speaking during the ANC's National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg over the weekend. The Minister Majodina pointing out that there's corruption, pointing to corruption, mismanagement and criminal interference, the so-called water mafias, as key causes, also pledging that urgent national intervention to reclaim funds, finish the stalled projects, and also combat those water mafias that is in the offing. So, I mean, the backdrop for all of this, of course, is the mounting community frustration and protests that we have seen around systemic failures in water delivery that we have seen recently in recent weeks. So at about 10 to 7 this morning, I'll be in conversation with Sean Phillips, the Director General in the Department of Water and Sanitation, to unpack it all for us. Lastly, let me flag this. The Wild Coast communities, supported by some legal and environmental advocacy groups, including Sustaining the Wild Coast, All Rise, Attorneys, Natural Justice and Greenpeace Africa, they are taking their fight against Shell and the Department of Mineral Resources to the country's apex court, and that case is due to serve before the Constitutional Court today. The case challenges the legality of government-issued permits for seismic surveys. You remember that debate? It happened, I think it was around 2022 or thereabouts, that it served before the High Court and had a ruling that found that Shell had failed to properly consult affected communities around that process that they wanted to undertake of seismic surveys that they were going to undertake. So we'll have a conversation at about 8:45 this morning with Neville van Roy, who is Community Outreach Coordinator at the Green Connection, just revisiting some of the main arguments that we will hear when the case serves before the Constitutional Court. So that's some of what we have in store for you over the next 3 hours. To the Morning Brief team, to your stations, please, for the takeoff. And Musa stands at the ready with your hourly and half-hourly news updates. Rob Byrne confirms that he's got your traffic. Zaikan has got your sport. Melissa Buta with the Morning Brief in brief coming up in a moment. Dowling Lechela is always right on the money, and she will be once again this morning with your business and market updates, as well as Mo Africa, Sipho Mantula with your Africa update at about 20 to 7 this morning. Through it all, let's keep the conversation lively and robust. The number to dial is 086 000 2032. I'll take your WhatsApp voice notes and WhatsApp messages on 0614 104 107. What are we waiting for? Let's put it in gear and get it going on this Tuesday morning.
If you're active on social media and love SAFM, we hope you'll take a moment to like or follow our SAFM page on Facebook and Twitter. These are the best places to find all the guest information, conversations, and stories you love from your favorite presenters, along with regular updates from SABC News. And don't forget, you can send your questions to feedback@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
So kicking us off on the journey then this morning once again is Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in Brief. Melissa, good morning. Let's start with news of litigation that is looming around the Madlanga Commission. I didn't see this one coming. What is the MK party saying about the commission?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. So the Umkhonto weSizwe, known as the MK Party, is opposing the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry set to begin hearings on the 17th of September 2025. The party plans to challenge the commission's legality in the Pretoria High Court on the 18th of September. MK spokesperson Nkamula Ndlela criticized the timing of the hearings as rushed attempts to undermine the court's challenge. The party also objects to the appointment of retired Judge Mbuyiseli Madlanga as chair, citing a conflict of interest, and opposes other related government actions. The commission, which will investigate serious corruption allegations involving police, judiciary, and politicians, is budgeted at nearly 148 million rand. So we will have to wait and see on Thursday what the outcome of their case will be.
Let's talk higher education. Tell me what the Minister of Higher Education, Buti Manamela, is saying about reworking the books and reprioritizing funds in order to meet the funding crisis in the sector.
So the South African government is saying that they've resolved a major funding crisis in higher education that had led thousands of students unable to register for the 2025 academic year. Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela announced that 13.3 billion rand in the department's budget has been reprioritized to support 34,000 students with blocked registrations and 15,000 students who were unable to register for the second semester. NSFAS had earlier reported a shortfall of 10.6 billion rand for universities and 1.6 billion rand for TVET colleges. While funding reprioritization offers temporary relief, NSFAS remains under financial strain due to rising demand and declining resources. Sustainable funding reforms are expected to be announced later on in the year for the 2026 academic year. Manamela has also warned of shortage in universities for 2026 placements and has encouraged students to also consider TVET colleges and community colleges, which NSFAS will fully fund. And applications for the 2026 academic year are expected to open on the 16th of September, which is today.
So we report extensively, Melissa, don't we, on the one driving license card printing machine that breaks down from time to time, causing huge backlogs. Tell me about the future, what it looks like. We may put that in the past if these plans come through, won't we?
Yes. So while there are plans to introduce a digital driving license in South Africa, experts are saying that the country is not ready due to systematic issues. Experts have highlighted key challenges, including the lack of digital infrastructure, corruption in tenders, corruption in tender process, and limited access to digital services for many citizens. Although the technology exists and is successful in other countries, South Africa's tender favor system and digital inequality poses serious risks. The experts are also further warning that without secure, inclusive, and well-managed systems, a digital license could do more harm than good in the country. But we will, of course, have to see how this goes on in the near future.
Still beats the backlogs that, build up because the one printing machine has broken down, and even the tender, as you say, is mired in a lot of controversy and litigation. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in Brief this morning.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So on the weather front, I've got a fair amount to tell you. Just 4 warnings. Let me start with those. Yellow level 1 warning, and it is for damaging interior winds, leading to localized damage to settlements, localized problems for high-sided vehicles on prone routes. A yellow level 2 warning for damaging winds, leading to damage to temporary structures and localized disruption of small harbors and ports, and that is expected for a short time. None of those are confined to any geographic area, so I'm not sure where exactly these apply. The third one, yellow level 2 warning for damaging waves, leading to difficulty in navigation of small boats, with a risk of some vessels taking on water and capsizing within locality. Again, no specific location. Last one is a yellow level 4 warning for damaging winds, resulting in disruption to ports and harbors, difficulty in navigation at sea, difficult driving conditions, power and communication interruptions, and an enhanced risk of runaway fires. And that, we get to know, is expected along the coast between Plettenberg Bay and Algoa Bay. All right, let me tell you the rest of your weather. Pretoria will be fine with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 33. Johannesburg, fine 12 to 29. Vereeniging, fine 9 to 28. Mbombela, fine 14 to 33. Polokwane, fine 12 to 32. Mahikeng will be fine with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 29. Bloemfontein, fine 6 to 21. Kimberley, fine 9 to 21. Uppington will also be fine with a minimum of 7 and a maximum of 23. Cape Town will be cloudy with light rain until the afternoon with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 15. George will be cloudy with light rain 13 to 15. Gqeberha, cloudy with isolated showers and rain 13 to 17. East London, partly cloudy 13 to 21. Durban will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning with isolated evening showers and rain 18 to 23. Richards Bay will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from late morning with isolated evening showers and rain 17 to 25. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming partly cloudy from the afternoon with isolated evening showers and rain 13 to 26.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
So diplomatic tussling, let's call it that, happening between Brasilia and Washington. The Brazilian president, Lula da Silva, has pushed back firmly against U.S. President Donald Trump's assertions that the conviction and sentence of Lula's predecessor, Jair Bolsonaro, is a witch hunt, saying Brazilian sovereignty is not up for negotiation. In a piece published in the New York Times, Lula has publicly backed the 27-year prison sentence handed to Bolsonaro, calling the trial a historic decision vital for protecting Brazil's democratic institutions. He also addresses growing friction with the U.S., particularly President Donald Trump, who recently imposed steep tariffs on Brazilian imports and criticized the trial as politically motivated. All right, let's take that story forward. Let's speak to Gustavo de Carvalho, African governance and diplomacy expert from the South African Institute of International Affairs. Good morning to you, Gustavo, and thank you for your time this morning. So it's extraordinary that we're talking about a trial of a former Brazilian president happening in Brazil, and yet it takes on this dimension that has to do with diplomatic ties between Brasilia and Washington. What's the context that's led us to this conversation?
Thank you very much, and good morning. Certainly what we are seeing at the moment is a continuation of two processes in the United States and in Brazil that somehow mirror one another. The United States had January 6th, where there was the storm of the Congress in the United States, but Brazil had January 8th in 2023, where President Jair Bolsonaro had lost the elections, had claimed for months that there was fraud in the elections, despite courts and international observers having declared the contrary. And then we had an invasion of both the parliament, the Supreme Court, and the presidential palace. since Lula came into power, the Supreme Court of Brazil, and Brazil has a government that is split between three powers, the legislative, judiciary, and the executive. And then last week, we've seen Jair Bolsonaro being condemned to 27 years in prison for leading a process of an attempted coup, together with 7 other leaders, including many generals from the army. For Donald Trump, this mirroring of the U.S. situation and the proximity between Trump and Bolsonaro brings a new flavoring to this tariff wars that have started since the beginning of the year. For most countries, the U.S. has presented an argument that there was a trading balance, which is not the case with Brazil. Brazil buys more from the U.S. than what it sells. So there is very little that President Lula can actually negotiate with President Trump. Trump has been calling a witch hunt towards Jair Bolsonaro, imposed 50% tariffs before Brazil at this stage, and the article within the New York Times, I think, aims to do a couple of things. First, to open channels of negotiation and to show that there is an open channel for negotiations, but particularly to talk to an American elite and a Brazilian elite that this is why and how the Brazilian government is dealing with the current situation.
Yeah, but just if we step away from the bilateral tensions around these issues and just focus on the drama unfolding in Brazil on its own, it's extraordinary, is it not, that you have a current president who at one point was himself in prison, now defending a decision of the country's courts that sends his predecessor to prison?
Well, I guess there are two very different circumstances in that sense. What we have seen in January 8th in Brazil, it was far more visible, public, with a much larger number of evidence that went all the way to the Supreme Court. That very Supreme Court that looked into the case of President Lula and found the evidence that had been provided by the prosecution authority to be quite flimsy. On the other hand, also what we have seen is that unlike Bolsonaro, which has been seen regularly to being at risk of fleeing and to actually leaving the country, President Lula, to a large extent, whether he was right or not, and I'll leave that to the courts that have presented that the courts are the process that will lead into the final decision, and this is eventually what we eventually saw. Brazil has a very polarized society at the moment, very much split between the Brazilian left and the Brazilian right.
Sure.
But I think what it's important for us to see, and the reason why the coup attempt did not hold in January 8th, but also the process that we've seen is that Brazilian institutions were able to hold and were able to show a high degree of resilience.
Yeah, always important to have the institutions hold the line. Thank you for that. That's Gustavo de Carvalho from the South African Institute of International Affairs.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's kick off with soccer. Kaizer Chiefs captain Zita Quinica looking to be headed out of the club last season, but good performances in the last few matches ensured his stay at the club. Now ahead of their crunch encounter against Sekhukhune United tonight at FNB Stadium, a match between two unbeaten teams that they've been occupying the top 2 positions before Mamelodi Sundowns' 3-0 win over Magesi FC on Sunday. Quinica talks about the importance of winning their home games.
It's very important. I think this season, that's the other objective, to try and get as much points as we can at home, because we feel like this is our home. This is where people, when they come, they must not get it easy. So it's very important. I think it gives us a motivation also just to keep going and get points as we can at home, because away it's a bit difficult. So when we're home, we must use that advantage.
On to soccer, Mozambique and Comores have both qualified for the semi-finals of the CAF Under-17 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers after the final set of pool matches in Group A were played in Harare yesterday. Now, South Africa on 6 points and Malawi 6 points plus 3 meet in the final winner-takes-all clash in Group B today, where the victor will advance top of the group. Elsewhere, we've got other news. Cricket, Pakistan lodging a complaint with cricket's governing body about the match referee in their Asia Cup clash with India after tensions between the two countries spilt over into sport. Now, tension simmered after the match as India players left the field without shaking hands. Pakistan blamed the India side and also alleged match referee Andy Pycroft of Zimbabwe told captain Salman Agha not to shake hands with India skipper Surya Kumar Yadav before the game. And finally, some news from athletics, and it's Mando Duplantis. He's gone on and soared to his 14th world record with his final attempt as the Swedish star continued his pole vault domination by winning a third consecutive world title. That's a wrap. We'll be back top of the hour with more sport. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa says the party's councillors across the country are their only hope to return the party to its former glory. He was speaking while introducing the party service delivery action plan to over 4,500 councillors at the FNB Stadium south of Johannesburg. The father of Lee Matthews, who was kidnapped and killed in 2004, has expressed sadness and disappointment over the possibility of his daughter's killer, Donovan Moodley, being released on parole. Moodley has been recommended for parole by the parole board. And the DA has described the appointment of a service provider to develop a funding model for the SABC as a step in the right direction. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Heavy into Pretoria using the Mopani Highway. It's all backed up from Theo Martins this morning all the way down to Mopani, down to Eskia Pathlari. The Mopani Highway appears to be heavier than normal. Big queues in from Lenasia and Protea Glen on the N12. Very heavy as you line up through towards the Golden Highway exit at Eldorado Park and the N17 other side of Joburg. Still that single lane section at Rondebolt Road. Coming in from Brakpan and Springs, it is very heavy. A lot of protesting going on around the Durban area. First up, Link Road that takes you from the Higginson Highway to and from Shallcross. That remains closed today. It was closed yesterday, overnight, and still this morning. So that section of Link Road still fully closed. Also some protesting on the South Coast Road coming up towards Umlazi. Behind that, just coming out of the Umlazi area, Mangasutu Highway and the route up through Reunion, there's a lot of traffic disruption around that protest this morning. So if you're about to leave Umlazi and head up into that sort of Mobeni area, there will be some disruption. We're getting some reports as well of protesting just west of Port Shepstone on the N2, sort of Murchison area. Can't see any impact on the traffic, but there are reports saying there is some protesting there, so just be aware of it. Cape Town this morning, wet weather conditions and a bit of a go slow all over town already. N2 inbound, very slow through Khayelitsha towards the airport runway, and the N1 already sitting from sort of Durban Road, Plattekloof Hill territory, right through to Kuburg at a chase. Just give yourself extra time to get through the traffic conditions this morning around Cape Town. It is shaping to be a busy Tuesday. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning to Ndauling for the first update of the morning. Ndauling, let's start with the app that has captured the imagination of creative people around the world, but was in a precarious situation in the United States. That seems to be dissipating. There seems to be some kind of a deal in the works for TikTok.
I must say, finally, Thulas, we've been talking about this for over a year now, and the deadline was around the corner. So I guess it only makes sense that some agreement is reached or that a deadline is extended. Now, the announcement was made by U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who said that the deal would potentially pave the way for TikTok to avoid a ban in the US. The deal outlines a transition to US-controlled ownership with commercial terms already agreed upon between the two private parties involved. But specifics of the agreement remain under wraps, pending final approval from Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping, who are set to discuss the matter on Friday. Bessent said the framework deal aims to address national security concerns raised by TikTok's Chinese ownership, with the U.S. Congress having passed a law last year requiring ByteDance, which is the parent company, to divest from TikTok or face a US ban. Now, China's lead trade negotiator has also confirmed the framework deal and also urged the US not to suppress Chinese companies any further. The potential transition to US ownership may allow TikTok to continue operating in the country, but questions surrounding data and algorithm safeguards remain unanswered.
Tell me about Alphabet joining the the Sky Mile, is it? Sky Mile Club, the club of 3 trillion and above in terms
Yes.
of market recapitalization.
A very exclusive club, Thulas. This comes as its market cap jumped above $3 trillion in yesterday's session, joining other tech giants like Apple, Microsoft, and Nvidia. Now, the upbeat momentum in Google's parent company was driven by renewed optimism around its AI offerings and a favorable antitrust ruling. The ruling, which came earlier this month, was a significant factor in Alphabet's stock rally, the courts deciding against the most severe consequences proposed by the Department of Justice, rejecting demands to force Google to divest its Chrome browser and Android operating system. Now, this decision not only alleviated regulatory uncertainty, but also boosted investor confidence in the company's prospects. And just looking at the stock's performance this year alone, that share price is up over 30%, driven by its diversification beyond search advertising, including growth in cloud computing and AI.
So how did we close yesterday and how are we starting today?
So markets started the week on a positive note, with U.S. stocks closing yesterday's session in the green. This as President Trump said that U.S.-China trade negotiations were going well. The Nasdaq led the gains on that front, up 0.94%. Looking at the JSE, trade mostly in the green, with the all-share rising 0.2%. Boosted by industrials and resources, but backing the overall trend was the financials, losing just over 0.25%. The rand, in the meantime, steady this morning, trading close to a 10-month high at 17.35 to the greenback. And then over in the commodities space, oil extended its gains as investors assessed the impact of Ukrainian drone attacks on Russian refineries that could disrupt its crude and fuel export. Brent is currently sitting above $67 per barrel. And then over in Asia, markets are mostly in positive territory. Trade will probably be subdued as investors await monetary policy moves from the Bank of Japan, the Bank of England, as well as the Fed.
All right, thank you for that. That's Ntauling Lechela. She'll be back with one more update for you in the second hour of the show, just after 7:30.
Africa Update on SAFM.
Let's go to Sipho Mantula with that. Raz, good morning to you. Take us to Malawi. Today is decision day for Malawians, and as happens sometimes in the build-up to elections, fake news, opinion polls, and a bit of contention about what reality is on the political battlefield.
Absolutely, Thulas. Jumbo Africa, and a refreshing morning to the listeners. Thulas, as you know that, as you have said, fake news creeps in when you are on the eve of elections. But yesterday, President Chakwera, under Section 92, subsection 2 of the Constitution of Malawi, has to take his cabinet off, Thulas, meaning dissolve the cabinet in accordance with the powers vested in him. But also, Thulas, you will recall that all the ministers' functions until only the 24th of September, they will be vested in the president. The other issue was the fake news around the Malawian kwacha going 150% to cushion forex shortage, to the rise of the fuel price. Those were fake news by the Minister of Finance, the outgoing Minister of Finance, Chitola. And the defense was not left out, Thulas. The Ministry of Defense also, there were rumors that some of the soldiers are involved in these elections. And finally, Thulas, as we have said, on the polls, we have seen the numbers favoring Professor Mutharika. We look at IPO Malawi. Last month, they were giving Peter Mutharika 41%, Chakwera 31%, Utapeli Muluzi 3%, and Dres Banda 2%. The Afrobarometer, the last polls, Thulas, they are giving still Peter Mutharika 29%, and Malawian Congress, they give him 7%. So it shows to us will be the battle of the former President Mutharika as well as the city president Lazarus Chakwera.
So in Kenya's report, the rallying cry of the youth that were protesting in the last few months was they want one term. Wanting the current president to have just one term in office. It seems that the former vice president, Rigathi Gachagua, wants to make sure that that becomes reality in 2027.
That is quite true, Thulasizwe. The politics of Kenya are interesting between Ruto and his former vice president. But the vice president, remember, he was impeached by Parliament, Thulasizwe. For him to then contest in those elections, you might have what we call constitutional hurdle. How do you deal with your impeachment and you overturn it by the court so that he can contest for the seat in the 2027? But Regatta, he has been moving where Ruto got his support in 2022, the Mount Kenya. That's where he has got the base of support. Hence, he's pushing to challenge President Ruto, the hustler, in 2027.
And in the land of the upright, the land of Thomas Sankara, it seems it's now free for all of us as Africans to visit with little hindrance.
That is quite true, Burkina Faso, Ouagadougou, but still, Thulas, you still have to fill out an online form. You don't just enter Burkina Faso.
They must still account for you, Marasipo. What did you want? You wanted just free pass to just walk in.
People think waiving fees and entry visas will go in. But Thulas, I think it's an important move. Remember, the Agenda 2063 talks about African passport, talks about removing the restriction on the visas. Burkina Faso, they have looked at three things, Thulas, I think. They're looking at the historic bond of the Pan-Africanist agenda. They look at tourism, which is important. They look at their culture and their visibility. We don't know, Thulas, they're out of ECOWAS. They are in the Alliance of the Sahel, probably to boost their economy. Hence, I said, it's not just free visa. Literally, Thulas, you must track and trace everybody who enters the country.
Yeah, wanting to keep records. Lastly, Sipo, your historical archive takes us to the 16th of September 2004. What happened?
Thulas, it's almost 21 years ago, and you'll recall this parliament was not known. It was only when there was a saga of a SADC chairperson or the SADC rotation, then you started to know about this parliament, the Pan-African Parliament. It was opened on this day by the former state president, Thabo Mbeki, on the second sitting of the parliament. It was a serious bash, Thulas, almost 7 million that was used to open that parliament during that time. And remember, this is one of the organs of the AU under the Article 17 of the Constitutive Act of the African Union. Asante sana, Thulas, as was in the conversation, SAFM observing the Heritage Month.
Well, believe it or not, Sipo, I was actually part of the SABC team that covered that opening.
At PAP during the time of Mayor Mongela from Tanzania.
Absolutely.
Mongela. I was there, Thulas, and I was being detained. I was with some students. They say, why are you here? Because I'm here to see the opening of the parliament.
Yeah, all right. So many years have passed since then. That's Sipo Mandula there with the Africa update for this morning.
We all know a Mesara, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mtanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spent at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Underwritten by Vodacom Life Assurance Company, a licensed life insurer. Further together, Vodacom.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SAFM Radio.
So the point I was making in that that quip with Sipo about the opening of the Pan-African Parliament has to do with the... I think I'm old, man. If I was at the opening of the Pan-African Parliament in 2004, what does that say about me and my age? Granted, I was still a young journalist then, but yeah, That's 20 years ago, hey? Anyway, let's move on to this. The occasional clash between traditional African spiritual practices and some professional and institutional rules has again ignited debate after football player Thabang Munare was forced off the field for wearing ispandla. It's an issue we covered quite extensively yesterday. Of course, ispandla is a sacred goat skin based wristband that symbolizes a deep ancestral connection. The incident highlights ongoing tensions between cultural identity and regulatory policies, raising important questions about religious freedom, cultural respect, and the need for inclusive standards across professional settings. Let's speak to Professor V.V.O. Mkhize. He is one of those stakeholders that the Commission for Religious and Cultural Rights, the CRL Commission, works with from time to time on various issues that have to do with culture and African healing systems. He's also the founder of the Umsamo Institute. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So what does this debate reveal for you about the tension that occurs from time to time between African traditional and religious and spiritual practices on the one hand and standards that are imposed by certain professional settings?
Good morning, Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SFM listeners. First of all, I must say that there shouldn't be any debate. You can't debate about your own tradition, about what you are and where you are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
We can debate about other issues like religions, and so on and so on. We are in Africa, a country which has its own belief systems, its own religions. And when white people came in this country, they never came with anything new, but they found us doing our own things. The only problem that I'm seeing today is that we are trying to create policies on something which was there and which is us as Africans. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because if we can say we cannot describe how to wear that wristband, how to, in other words, use it or whatever, because there were ways and systems how it was done and why it was done. And it is not only the skits gone, it was also the skin of Inyongo, Yenkomo, that also becomes like Isipala.
Yeah. So how do we then reconcile with standards that are not set in South Africa? I've been making the point that standards set in this country, I think we have precedent in terms of how we deal and negotiate that. Yesterday, after the conversations we had, I saw a lot of commentary that says, well, those professional players must just decide. The rules are the rules. They are set by FIFA. They either want to play football according to the rules or they want to pursue their tradition. Should it come down to that choice?
You see, Thulasizwe, another thing that you are mentioning, very interesting, you are mentioning the issue of FIFA. FIFA is an international football association or organization, which must actually respect each and every nation's or country's belief systems, if they are human beings themselves. That is why there is a saying which says, if you are in Rome, you must do as Romans do. So in South Africa, we have SAFA, South African Football Association, which is actually under FIFA. Those are the people who must speak to FIFA and say, look, we in South Africa, we are doing this and this and this and this. Because of this, I'll tell you why. Here is a football player. Okay, let me start by saying, to wear that wristband, it comes in two ways. When I do something at home, I slaughter a goat and say thank you to my ancestors. I have two ways I want. Is either I wear that or I don't. Because it's a choice. Because of it's me who is doing that. But there are cases where you are told by an elderly person in a dream who says, I am actually needing this and this and this. Could you do this ritual for me? And then that person will say, please wear that wristband. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, the football player has been doing very well, and so on, and so on, and so on. And therefore, here comes an old lady or an old man saying, wear that wristband. And he has to do it. Because I can tell you now, my man, the problem in South Africa is that we are living and we are actually dictated by the Western world. We haven't created anything that is ours. Even our constitution is from Germany and Canada. That's why it was quoted. We haven't even created our own African constitution. That is why now organizations like FIFA, they are doing whatever they want to do in our country.
So from what you are saying, Prof, I take it that this binary option that says either adhere to the rules as they are stated or abandon football altogether doesn't even arise for you, given the principles you've just outlined.
I'll tell you who are those people who are saying that. It's people who are living in Africa, who are lost, who has adopted the Western thinking, Western ways of doing things in an African country. It's people who do not care about us as Africans. It's people who are completely lost, as we are lost already. We have been lost. We were hoping that after 1994, we will get a president, we will get ministers who will actually promote and talk about us as Africans, talk about our traditions, values in the parliament. But there's not even a single one even till today. We have got what we call a Minister of Arts, Sports, Arts and Culture. Why mixing arts and culture and sports? Those are two different things. That is why things are a mess up in this country.
All right, Prof, thank you for that. Strong views there from Professor Vivi Mkhize, who is, of course, one of the stakeholders that the institutions such as the CRL Rights Commission will from time to time consult on issues pertaining to culture and African healing systems. But importantly, he's the founder of the Umsamo Institute.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Joburg first up, and some real heavy traffic to work through. The N12, the Potch Highway coming in from Lenasia and Protea Glen, really heavy up towards the Golden Highway exit to Eldos. And then once you get through the bend onto the N1 North, a breakdown again this morning at Deepcliff. So very heavy from Eldos up through Devlin, heading up towards that Deepcliff interchange territory. The N17 getting worse as the volume increases. Just one lane open at Rondebolt Road. Again, very heavy on that run in from the Brackfound Springs area. And some queues on the N12 and R24 routes coming into Galuli's interchange side. Pretoria's Mopori Highway, very heavy this morning from Theo Martins all the way down to Eskia and Pathlale. Just south of Durban, a bit of chaos around the Umlazi area, protesting this morning, closing South Coast Road, effectively coming from Umlazi up to Mobeni. That section closed. So behind that, there's a whole pile of traffic disruption inside Umlazi Makasutu Highway and the exits down towards sort of Reunion. That's all very heavy. And at the same time, a crash on the N2 northbound before you get to the Prospected exit. So coming up from Amanzam Choti up and down Tweeny Hill, quite heavy as you route into that particular scene. Cape Town, wet weather conditions and everything on a go slow. The N1 from Belleville all the way through to about sort of Marine Drive territory this morning. M3's already backlogging from Constantia up towards Rhodes Drive, and plenty of traffic on the M5 from Plumstead area all the way through towards Maitland up towards the Barclay Road exit, looking quite slow, and a crash out on the R102 Van Riebeek Road before you get to Stellenbosch Arterial, just causing some delays towards Cowes River, and just behind that on Blackheath Wimbledon Road, a crash there causing quite a bit of delay through that industrial area already this morning. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
7 minutes to 7. The Water and Sanitation Minister, Phemi Majodina, has coloured in some critical detail in accounting for the country's long-running water supply crisis, confirming that millions of rand have been spent on incomplete water infrastructure projects, leaving large communities without access to clean, safe water. Speaking during the ANC's National Executive Committee meeting in Boksburg over the weekend, Majodina pointed to corruption, mismanagement, and criminal interference as key causes and pledged urgent national intervention to reclaim funds, finish the stalled projects, and combat the so-called water mafias, who are sabotaging delivery efforts across the country. Let's speak to the Director General in the Department of Water and Sanitation, and that is Sean Phillips, who joins us now. Good morning to you, Dr. Phillips, and thank you for your time. So just talk to me about the expenditure on incomplete projects. What are the circumstances that lead to that problem, and how big is that problem?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Let me talk about the Giyani Water Project as an example. That project suffered from very long delays for various reasons. One is that there are allegations of corruption that occurred in our water board, Lepeli Northern Water at the time, and the Special Investigating Unit have been investigating those, and there have been various dismissals of people and criminal charges against people being laid as a result of that. But also, the projects were delayed due to factors such as the contractors leaving site, not being paid timelessly, unforeseen ground conditions occurring on projects, and disruptions due to strikes and disruptions due to local business forums demanding work. So those are all of the reasons which cause disruptions and delays in our projects. What we've been doing in the last few years is focusing on those projects which are incomplete, which have been delayed for a long time, and getting involved in a hands-on way as the national department, including through, for example, appointing implementing agents such as the TCTA and the DBSA to assist municipalities where necessary, and closely monitoring to make sure that things move, which has borne results. For example, in Giyani, the project is now, the bulk work is completed, and about 30 villages in Giyani are now receiving water in households. We've been working very closely with Lepeli Northern Water and Mopani District Municipality.
So, as you are saying that, a listener who is listening to us out of Giyani, saying that I'm from Giyani village called Nkuzana, I've not seen water, what water is like, for the last 6 to 7 years in our yard. And that is the price of these delays and inefficiencies, isn't it, Dr. Phillips? The cost to communities. How are you as a national department grappling with trying to get these projects over the line within the restrictions that are there in terms of the power and responsibility and authority over this area of governance being dispersed between various levels of government?
Where we ascertain that a municipality might not have the capacity to complete a large project such as the Giyani project, or might be lacking capacity in certain areas, we've taken an approach of appointing outside bodies such as the DBSA to assist the municipality with, for example, procurement of materials, sometimes with procurement of contractors. That has to be done with the agreement of the municipality. So that is shown to be quite effective. It's been a major factor why we've been able to get the Giyani project largely over the line now. We also assisted Mopani District Municipality with the procurement process. We advised them closely on the procurement processes. We even had some of our officials assist them in their bid committees to advise them, such that the situation is now that there's about 30 contractors on the ground now working in Giyani, putting in the reticulation now that the bulk has been complete.
Dr. Phillips, if someone asked you, in what way are you able to demonstrate that you are grappling with the gravity of, in particular, the wastewater plant crisis, where we are told a mere 7.7% is compliant, what would be your answer? Are you grappling with it as a crisis?
Wastewater treatment, in terms of the Constitution, is solely a municipal function. It's different to water With regard to water, the national government has a role to play. We build very large dams.
Yeah.
We also have the water boards, which are appointed by the national government, which provide a bulk water service to municipalities. So with regard to water, the national government has a much larger role to play.
I see.
But sanitation is very much a local function, and those wastewater treatment works and systems are managed by municipalities.
Yeah, and I guess in a way you talk to the concern that I have, that I'm trying to raise, I suppose, that the sense that in a way you are almost like bystanders, and in a way almost like you are lobbying, and that sense of frustration among South Africans. For instance, in the issue around water leaks that are taking up to 40% of treated water. You've rightly lamented that the debts that are owed to water boards, you continue to lament that. I'm just trying to get a sense of then what? How are you doing extraordinary things? Yeah.
Thulasizwe, we're doing more than just lobbying municipalities to perform better. We also offer a huge amount of support to municipalities. And we receive grants from National Treasury, which we distribute to municipalities to assist them to address their capital works backlogs, and we provide them with advice. We also carry out the blue, green, and no-drop assessments of all the municipal water and wastewater systems, which gives the municipalities a very detailed picture of exactly what is wrong with their systems and what needs to be done to fix them. And then as the regulator, we particularly with regard to wastewater, we have powers in terms of the National Water Act to issue notices and directives to municipalities which are polluting our environment with sewage. And as a last resort, we can lay criminal charges against municipalities for that sewage pollution. Currently, we have criminal charges against 59 municipalities around the country. So there are those kind of actions that we can take.
Yeah.
And then over and above that, we have recently submitted the Water Services Amendment Bill to Parliament, which is aimed at bringing about some structural reforms of the water and sanitation function at municipal level.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Dr. Sean Phillips is the Director General in the Department of Water and Sanitation. And Musa on standby with your latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't,
corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first.
The Kaizer Chiefs captain Zita Kwenika is crediting his entire squad as they hope their clean sheet streak continues when they take on Sekuna United today. And we'll also bring you the Proteas women's captain, Laura Wolfart. She's eyeing momentum in the Pakistan tour. We'll bring you details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Morning, Joburg. First up, very heavy in from Lenasia. Protea Glen side, just coming up towards Elders. Big queues on the N12, Joburg bound, approaching the Golden Highway exit. Once you get past that and through Dead Man's Bend onto the M1 North, there's in a breakdown of the Deep Cliff interchange. Two big queues to work through at this stage. N3 from Elands up to a link onto the N12 east of Galulis. If you're airport bound, there's a lot of traffic on that route. Make sure you got time to get through. Pretoria's Montpellier Highway heavy this morning, heavier than usual, with traffic backlogging from Theo Martins all the way down to Eskia and Patlari. Just south of Durban, a couple of protest-related updates. The Link Road, shall cross through Chatsworth to and from Higginson Highway, remains closed. We're into day 2 of that closure, and new protesting around the Umlazi area this morning, causing some very heavy traffic disruption from Umlazi outbounding towards Mbeni. There's a section between Umlazi and Mbeni of South Coast Road that is currently closed, so exiting Umlazi and then a reroute down through Reunion. It's all very heavy. Staying that side of Durban, a crash just before Prospecton Road, so coming up 20 Hill on your way inbound. That's quite slow. And the Kwamashu Highway, very busy this morning, backlogging from Malandela down through Duffs Road and on towards the N2 Highway. It was heavy going home last night, it's heavy getting out this morning. Cape Town, wet weather conditions, everything on a go slow. The N1 inbound from Belleville through to Kubo, get a change. The M5 from Parkwood all the way through to Maitland Barclay Road exit. That's quite slow, slower than normal. And the R300 just starting to queue up between Stellenbosch Arterial and the Van Riebeek Road exit into Belleville. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
11 minutes after 7. Welcome to the second hour of the Morning Brief on this Tuesday. It's great to be in your company. We'll dive straight into the issues raised by the ANC's so-called roll call meeting of all of its councillors, 4,500 of them from across the country, gathered under one roof at FNB Stadium yesterday, where they were addressed by party leadership. It seems to me that there was a fair amount of robust and candor about it, robustness and candor about it. You will hear the comments of Gwede Mandashe when, the councillors were trying to sing, and he was saying, hang on, stop with the singing. We have enough singing councillors, but when it comes to capacity to deliver, dololo. But incredibly, of course, the admission by the ANC president and country president Cyril Ramaphosa that as far as he's concerned, it pains him whenever the reports come in from institutions such as the Auditor General, and they point to municipalities that are governed well, being those municipalities that are led by the party's rivals, being the Democratic Alliance. So Samgele Masego is on standby to take us through all of that, including what came out of the National Executive Committee meeting, as well as immediately after that, we'll be discussing these issues with Dr. Ongama Mtimka, who will just weigh in on all of this, especially the emphasis and focus on the role of councillors in projecting the ANC in good light among the voting public in South Africa. So that's where we're going in this half hour. Do call me. Let's engage. 086 000 2032 or send me WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Let's get the second hour of the Morning Brief underway.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the heart and art of jazz from the 26th, 27th, and 28th September. Umo Sangare, Ababemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Ngo, and the Noisemakers Najponk Trio, Michelle Ndegeyechelo, Velemsini, Gabi Motuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
All right, let me just go straight into it. The extraordinary admission by President Cyril Ramaphosa conceding that some of the country's best-run municipalities are led by the ANC's rivals in politics, the Democratic Alliance, but also in that same speech urging ANC councillors not to be ashamed of learning from their rivals. Take a listen to what he said before we get into the reporting of Samgele Masego.
Municipalities that do best are not ANC-controlled municipalities. And I can name it here because there's nothing wrong with competition. They are often DA-controlled municipalities. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that is better than what we are doing? And there's nothing wrong with us saying we want to go and see what Cape Town is doing. We want to go and see what Stellenbosch is doing. How do they craft everything? We need to be moving up the ladder of being good at what we do. We cannot forever stay at the bottom. It hurts me deeply when I continue to see that our municipalities sometimes tend to move even backwards.
All right, so let's turn to SABC politics editor, politics reporter. I just promoted you there, Samgele. Samgele Masego joins me on the line. What in that gathering, it was called a roll call of councillors, and councillors from all over the country had to be there in person at FNB Stadium. What in that gathering made it possible for discussions and conversations to get to the point where we're hearing these extraordinary concessions, including the one we just played now?
Well, Thulas, what I can essentially say is that the president of the African National Congress has never been so frank and forthright with ANC members like he was yesterday. There were no platitudes whatsoever. He went straight into the business of the day in speaking about the dilapidation and the lack of capacity of ANC councillors across councils. And it's not only the president of the African National Congress, by the way, it's also the national chairperson, Gwede Samson Mantashe, who was just a mayor for 3 hours in Boksburg, who basically said ANC councillors, all they do is sing and content dololo. And that essentially speaks to how the ANC wants to now ramp up, have a more stringent selection processes of its councillors. There must be minimum qualifications that are there in order for the ANC to be able to have better service delivery in municipalities. For instance, I'm going to go to the AG report to us, which speaks directly to the heart of what the president of the ANC says. It speaks about service delivery risks. This is the last financial year audited reports of the AG. Quote, municipal managers, mayors, councils, all contributed to poor financial mismanagement in municipalities. Councils again adopted unfunded budgets in 2023-2024, contrary to the advice given by the national and provincial treasuries. A budget is unfunded when the budgeted expenditure is more than the projected revenue. When the mid-year adjustments budget was done, most of the adjusted budgets remained unfunded, resulting in 113 municipalities, 44% of them, operating with unfunded budgets. Plus, that is 44% of the 270 municipalities that we have in the country, basically operating on unfunded budgets. This is the report the president of the ANC was essentially quoting from and reading from, which is a report done by experts who audit these particular municipalities, speaking about a deplorable state of these municipalities. To us.
How did it go down, though, among the audience? I got the sense, for example, when Gwede Mantashe was calling them out on being vocal when it comes to singing, but lacking capacity when it comes to championing issues of delivery. I couldn't see what was, the crowd itself, but from the audio that we were hearing, it didn't seem to land so well. I'm wondering how that comment as well as the comments of the president were received by the crowd?
It didn't land very well to them. They did not want to hear the truth. And they unfortunately just did not want to hear the truth. And they were seemingly howling and heckling at Kwedemantashe. And he evidently said, even with your howling and heckling, that's evidence of how you conduct yourselves in councils. You are a howling council. And this tells you that the national chairperson of the ANC and the president were in sync when it came to telling the ANC councillors the hardcore truth that they did not want to hear. I know that some of them, particularly some provincial leaders, regional leaders, viewed the comments of the president of the ANC as a sabotage on the African National Congress. But contrary to what they had to say and how they are responding, the AG report is the factual basis of what ANC municipalities have become, because they are unable to have good governance when it comes to procurement systems, supply chain, when it comes to the maintenance, refurbishment of public infrastructure. They even outsource to us the auditing of the books, the preparing of the financial statements of the municipality, which more and often times, as per the AG report, they come back wrong. If some of them are not wrong, they are cooked.
Sure. Sobering discussions that took place at that gathering. Thank you for that. Samgele Masego, SABC politics reporter who's been covering that. Let's get the reflections then of Dr. Ongama Mtimka on it all, including the focus that seems to be renewed on the role of councillors. Dr. Mtimka, good morning and thank you for your time. Let's start with this concession by President Ramaphosa of saying there's nothing wrong in acknowledging that in many instances the municipalities that are governed well are led by the DA. What do you make of it? Is that a frank and apt admission and concession that's grappling with the reality on the ground, or is that what I called a political through ball for the DA ahead of the elections?
Well, I don't know what the intentions are, to employ the political through ball, response, which I've seen across many social platforms. But I think that there's a recognition of what is already in the public domain. For the ANC, they will see it as an unfortunate comparison, but it's the reality. It's actually the reality that should get the ANC to be working to change the outcomes rather than to focus on commentary about the comparisons.
And what do you make of the focus that seems to have fallen almost squarely, at least in the last week or so, including over the NEC meeting, on the role of councillors in the ANC's fortunes as well as how it performs in government? Is that warranted, and is it coupled by an honest grappling with the pathways that lead to the appointment of people as candidates to stand as councillors for the ANC and ultimately their election and therefore their capacity to deliver as well?
Yeah, so throughout the ANC's reflections on the state of affairs in the country, you always could never fault them on their conceptualization of what needs to be done at the level of government. They always say that even the worst among them will always say what the right thing. Where the rubber meets the road is exactly where you say, Thulas, in the commitment to then appoint correctly people who are going to go into municipal ward offices and become councillors. That is more beholden not even to party interests. It's beholden to elite interests, which interests are often on a collision course with both the public government or public sector imperatives and of the objectives of the party. So, and the NC fails every time to deal with that issue decisively. They may have introduced recently measures to say how you select councillors and ensure that you've got people who are qualified and all of those things, but those principles become subservient to who prefers who in the upcoming provincial conference, and that goes all the way to the preferred candidate for for leading the party in 2027. So at any given time, whenever there's choices needing to be made about who best to deploy in government, it's always subservient to elite interests. So I was looking at Fikile Mbalula, for example, what he was talking about, and I knew how empty, in fact, both what they were saying, what the president was saying and Fikile Mbalula was saying, how empty those things are. It was just rhetoric, because he knows behind closed doors, they are busy trying to outmaneuver people who should be getting into council positions, precisely because those people are not part of their people when it comes to creating a machinery for campaigning for office. I don't know what they are talking about, because they know exactly what they are doing wrong, and that's the part that they're not touching at all.
And then what do you make of this, service delivery program of action that is being unveiled? In terms of what it's said to focus on is speeding up service delivery, improving transparency, and that issue that seems to be now a major pain point, increasing community engagement and communication. Do the conditions conduce for implementation of this program of action with the time remaining between now and the elections, but also the electoral and political calendar of the ANC itself?
So I think those are commendable. Those must be done. Where I think there are huge failures in local government, and these are confirmed in the report of the Auditor General, is in procurement. Because everything has to be done through supply chain management processes. And the Auditor General is completely not convinced about whether that is done well. Just to give you an example, Thulas, in 2010, the city in Nelson Mandela Bay was among the best when it came to marshalling disaster responses. You could, wherever a trigger was lodged, all disaster management responses happened within 15 minutes of a disaster and a call being made. Why? The city had a state-of-the-art surveillance system, a joint operation center that it allowed even SAPs to use, among other things.
All right, I think we've lost Dr. Ongama Mtimka there on the line, but I think we've got enough out of that conversation. Thank you for your time this morning, Dr. Mtimka.
Spar brings you Super Savings. Get 450-gram Bacoma Wheat Bix for $26.99 and 50 megs free data on Spar Mobile, or 750-gram Nola Mayonnaise for $38.99 and 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Plus, you could win your share of 6 million rand in instant cash. Prices valid until 22 September 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Mzansi, 133 million rand in total guaranteed Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could change your life this Tuesday. That's right, play Powerball for the guaranteed 70 million rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 63 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Good morning. Let's start with the Kaizer Chiefs captain, Zita Quinica, looking ahead to the good performances they've had in the last few matches of the season. He's talking about now the crunch encounter against Sekhukhune United tonight at FNB Stadium. Chiefs remain the only team to have kept clean sheets in all their matches so far this season and yet to concede. Quinica says credit should go to everyone in the team.
The group thing, how we do things, the block, how we shift, and obviously goalkeeper also when needs to play a role, it does that. So I think at this phase we are really doing well, and everyone is contributing, to be honest. It's not about certain individual defenders, and it's the whole group working together, preparing well, and taking it as it comes.
Cricket now. The women's Proteas cricket team captain Laura Wolfart and the squad are in Pakistan preparing for the ODI World Cup, and they take on their hosts in 3 matches from today. The Proteas women are favourites to beat Pakistan in the first of 3 ODIs at the Gaddafi Stadium in Lahore, with the captain highlighting the value of playing in subcontinental conditions ahead of the World Cup in India and Sri Lanka.
Yeah, this series is super crucial for us. Obviously, heading into that World Cup, getting to be in the subcontinent before is a massive opportunity. I think getting used to conditions, getting used to how hot it is, obviously coming from winter at home, it's been a bit of an adjustment. And just to play cricket together again as a group. I think we've last played together like maybe 5-6 weeks ago, so just to get some momentum leading into a big tournament like that will be huge.
On to rugby, Leinster senior coach Jacques Nienaber has signed a contract extension to remain at the club until the end of the 2026-27 campaign. The 52-year-old joined Leinster in 2023 after guiding South Africa to back-to-back World Cup wins. On to athletics, and Armando Duplantis broke the pole vault world record for the 14th time, clearing 6.3 metres to capture his 3rd world championship.
Yeah, I felt like I had confidence the whole time, honestly. Like from first jump, warm up, like whatever. Just the first time I was on the runway, I felt really confident. But I definitely took more jumps than I would have, than is probably optimal for breaking a world record and whatnot. I was, I have to make sure that I win first, and I have to make sure I take back home the gold. So I was always going to do whatever was necessary for that. And then after that, I was always going to, no matter where the energy level was, I was going to at least take jumps at the world record.
All right, we'll be flying high. Top of the hour with more sport. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa.
SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. 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 On SAFM.
Let's turn to Ndauling once again. Good morning to you, Ndauling. Let's start with issues to do with inflation, which is constantly in the crosshairs of the South African Reserve Bank. What is the trend that we are seeing as far as inflation is concerned?
So we're seeing inflation expectations hitting a record low, and this is according to the Bureau for Economic Research's third quarter inflation expectations survey. The data gathers expectations from different stakeholders, including business leaders, trade unions, and households. Now, the third quarter print unveiled that the average expectation for headline inflation over the next 5 years has dropped to 4.2%, down from 4.4% in the previous quarter. This decline driven by downward revisions from analysts and trade union officials, likely influenced by the SARB's recent announcement to target 3% inflation. Business executives, however, maintained their longer-term inflation forecasts. The survey also revealed expectations for near-term inflation have edged down modestly, with forecasts for this year and next year averaging 3.8% and 4.2% respectively. Now, the survey's release comes just before the August inflation print and the Monetary Policy Committee announcement taking place this week as well, where expectations suggest that the Reserve Bank may hold rates steady due to global uncertainty and sticky food prices.
And tell me about activity in the construction sector. You're saying that there's a bit of a rebound that we are seeing there, right?
Yeah, there seems to be a glimmer of hope for the sector as it rebounded in the second quarter. According to the Afrimat Construction Index, key indicators showed broad-based gains. The value of buildings completed rose 21.7%, while the sales value of buildings materials increased 13%, and the volume of building materials produced grew 10%. The economist that compiles the index, Roelof Botha, attributes the recovery to the sector bouncing back from a low base after a weak first quarter and a marginal cut in interest rates, which eased pressure on contractors and developers. And while the residential property market showed signs of strengthening, Botha added that the broader construction sector still faces deeper structural issues, and real momentum will only return when the prime lending rate drops further and the government starts delivering on infrastructure projects. Now, there's a disparity between the Afrimat Construction Index and the FNB BER Construction Confidence Index. While the ACI tracks actual performance in the sector, the FNB BER Index measures sentiment, and the recent decline in morale among construction professionals, as reflected in the FNB BER Index, raises questions about the sector's future performance. It will be interesting to see how the ACI fares in the current quarter and whether it aligns with the downturn we are seeing in sentiment.
I'm pretty sure that I'm wide awake. The fact that I could follow everything you were saying about the discrepancy between the one index and the other, the ACI and the BER, I am awake.
So you've had your coffee.
I've had my coffee. Lastly, Ndauling, how are we looking on the markets this morning?
Kicking things off in Asia, stocks trading mixed, with Japan's Nikkei up 0.5%, while China's Shanghai Composite slides 0.1%. Now, trade will probably move sideways ahead of those big rate moves. Investors are also keeping an eye on trade talks between China and the US, and traders in Wall Street also focused on those trade talks. And we are seeing a number of traders already cheering the possible deal reached to sell TikTok's US unit. Amidst it all, futures on that front are in positive territory. And then coming back home, trade mixed, with the all share managing to end the day in the green, up 0.2% in yesterday's session. Over in the currency scene, the rand steady, benefiting from higher Fed rate cut bets that have weighed on the dollar and in turn boosted the local unit. It's trading at 17.34 to the greenback. Lastly, in the commodity markets, oil slightly stronger this morning, sitting above $67 per barrel.
All right, Ndauling, we'll talk to you once again just after 8:30 here on the Morning Brief.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
The Spa Baby Proteas will take part in the Netball World Youth Cup 2025 in Gibraltar from the 19th to the 28th of September 2025. These are our rising stars. Hashtag Together We Rise. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture.
If we have rights, shouldn't we also have opinions? SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The SABC is proud to partner with Africa's biggest marketing conference, the Nedbank IMC. One day, 25 top speakers, including 6 global keynotes. The theme this year is Marketing is Business, and everyone in the business of communication should be there. The conference is taking place on the 18th of September, in person in Johannesburg or online. Book now at imcconference.com. Marketing is business.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's get the conversation fired up. I think let me start with the calls this morning. Let me go to Loward out in Alberton, who wants to weigh in on some of what President Ramaphosa has said about the role of ANC councillors. Loward, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. How are you, Mr. Thulas?
Very well. How are you, Bob?
Good, my brother. Context, Thulas, is always important when one attempts to interpret or to understand a particular statement. Comrade President Ramaphosa, he was absolutely forthright on that platform, citing the shortcomings of the councillors and to an extension the municipalities under the African National Congress. And the AG reports to us, they do not lie. That is why you will never, or myself, I've never read or had anyone taking them on review.
Yes.
The municipalities, to us, or should I ask them to say that most of them, they constantly receive negative auditing outcomes compared to the Western Cape municipalities. The last point I want to make, to us, because I can hear people are creating a halabaloo about saying the president has thrown a ball to the DA. In 1977, our President General O.R. Tambo, he was in Angola. He said this, let me quickly read this quote. Learn from the enemy also. The enemy is not necessarily doing everything wrongly. You may take his right tactics and use them to your advantage. At the same time, avoid repeating the enemy's mistakes. So, Comrade O.R. Tambo, he guided us that the enemy can be doing something correct. You have to take it to your advantage. That's my point for this morning.
Thank you, Loward. I appreciate that. I thought I could predict which O.R. Tambo quote you were going to, but you threw a nice curveball at me. I was expecting Loward to quote the one that says, we must always tell the truth to one another, even if the truth coincides with what the enemy is saying. But he then went on to quote something completely different. Let me go to Bongani in Mpumalanga, who wants to talk about insulting the president. Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
Yes, Thulas. You know what? Yesterday, when one of the callers did those comments and using some weight, so I was driving, taking my little girl to school. So I'm listening to you on the show, your show, every day during the weekdays. So now, she asked me, say, "Ubaba kabalo ukhuluma kanje ngepresident." You understand?
Yeah. Whose father is this that talks in this manner?
Yes, because I understand, but you listen to this show every day, and we can't have some old people commenting like this, you know.
Yeah.
And it was touching, really, to us, because most of us we listen to your show, taking our children to school.
Yeah.
And some of them, they are still young, and they see the older people, and they still respect that. And now, if a little girl is going to ask you like that, what leadership or leadership that we're showing as elder parents?
Yeah. All right, Bongani. Thank you for making that point. I think I've said everything I had to say about that interaction with Khotso yesterday. But thank you for raising your point of view about it. That's Bongani out in Mpumalanga. Let me go to Lisiba in Limpopo. Good morning, Lisiba.
Morning, Tulas. How are you?
Very well. How are you? Please go ahead.
I wanted to talk about this Ispash thing.
Yes.
You see, we got SAFA, we got African Football Federation. They must take up this matter with FIFA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we cannot be treated like this at this point in time.
Yeah.
The European wanted to force their culture on us. Why must we accept it?
Mm-hmm.
SAFA must take up this matter with FIFA, together with African Football Federation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Lisiba. It could be a teachable moment and perhaps a moment to expose the global federation to the nuances in localities, and not just in South Africa, because you will understand that there are different cultural and religious methods of expression across the world where the game of football is played and regulated by FIFA rules. Perhaps this is a moment for some kind of a conversation like that. Sive in Kabecha, good morning to you.
Hi, Thulasizwe. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good. Thulasizwe, I would have commented about councillors, but lest I choose that I want to be a mayor of Makanda. But let me talk about
do you want to be a mayor of Makanda?
Not yet.
Okay.
I don't know when FIFA changed the rules, but I remember when Belenomvete used to play, he used to wear ispandla, if you still remember. Him and the Kumlan and Kiza guys in the African Wanderers days. I don't know when did that happen.
Yeah.
But also it doesn't stop our players from, because it's not about showcasing the ispandla, it's about your ancestral connection.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got the ispandla, you can just put a wristband,
that sweatband, yeah.
That you cover in case that you don't want to hurt other players, as FIFA is saying it.
Yeah.
But also it goes back to the comment I made 2 months back about arts and culture and the role of that ministry.
Mm-hmm.
Remember I said that ministry is reduced to go into stadiums and issue out tickets to friends and families. That ministry needs to speak about these important issues of sports, culture, and the recreation of how our country needs to look like in South Africa.
All right.
So I want officials of government to begin to elevate that ministry into a very senior ministry, because our country is crafted around culture, religion, and language.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Thulasizwe.
Sive, thank you for that. That's Sive in Kabecha making that point there. Let me go to your voice notes. Let me start with this one. Because I suspect I may want to respond to it. So let me just play it.
Thulas, Katlego here in Cape Town. We hear you saying you don't like swearing and everything. When certain words are used against individuals. But umbuzo umile Thulas ukuthi give us the right term to describe these people who we believe are behaving in a particular way. Give us the word umbuzo umile. Good morning, SAFM.
Good morning to you, and thank you for that. I don't have the words to describe. And let me just make it very clear. This is not about politics. Let's say we were discussing nuclear physics, and I had a guest and we were talking and it got heated, and it's robust to the extent that some of us can understand nuclear physics, right, with our limitations. And it got heated, and you come on and you fundamentally disagree with the person that I'm interviewing. It's about protecting the integrity of the debate, right? That's why I would never allow you, in that context of nuclear physics, something that is detached from those typical topics that inflame passions, your politics, your religion, your culture, and the likes, nuclear physics. And you come on and you tell me, that guy is stupid, man. Hey, what a fool. Don't bring this fool here. I am not doing that. I'm not about that. The whole point of this platform is for it to be a platform for engagement such that I can hear you even though I don't agree with you. And I must say, in the last year of being in this seat, I've had your views change fundamental views that I held and create an empathy in me that says, I still don't agree with what those people are saying, but I fully understand what they are saying. But when you get on and I call you stupid, I'm not hearing you. And the other people are not hearing what the point is, that so that you can continue to disagree with it. And I think that's the point. So that's my long way of saying there that I don't have the right words. You will know what the right words are to use to get your point across without really deteriorating in terms of the quality and caliber of the conversation we are trying to have.
Morning, Thulas. Great show as always, brother. Faga Lonke here in Durban. President Ramaphosa spoke the truth about these municipalities and these councillors. So all we can do is learn from that and do the right thing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That's one reaction, of course. But the other reaction has been to raise the debate and say, so what are the implications? What are you saying ahead of the elections? Thank you for that. I'll come back to your calls and WhatsApps a bit later on.
SAFM, guiding you. SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily. 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 SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda daily.
Music in the air. From 12 to 28 September at the Arena Theatre, enjoy South Africa's greatest 80s and 90s hits with music from icons like Hugh Masekela and Miriam Makeba, written and directed by Joel Zuma. Tickets only 200 Rand at Web Tickets and Pick and Pay. Don't miss out.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
So let's focus on some of the protests we've been seeing and some of the dimensions of public infrastructure damage and the likes. The country is again seeing a rise in water and service delivery related protests, a signal perhaps of deep frustration with basic service failures. Yet while the right to protest is constitutionally guaranteed, it is often the accompanying violence in some protests that raises questions. Many community protests feature by now well-documented methods of burning tires, pelting of stones, and damage to infrastructure. Let's get a perspective from someone who is in the front lines in terms of the insights that emanate from those protests. Muzi Dladla, who is from Sasria, is the executive manager of stakeholder management at Sasria. And as I say, a man who understands both the financial and social cost of unrest. Sasria, of course, is that insurance that many of us were hardly aware that we had and needed until, for instance, the unrest in July 2021. Muzi, good morning and thank you for your time. Let's start with, I don't imagine that you only look at the property that is damaged during protests. I imagine that in part of what you do, you then glean key insights into the reasons why protests turn violent and how that happens. What are some of the insights you can share with us from the work that you do?
Sure. Thank you, Thulasizwe. I think the perspective that just needs to be clear so that people can get an understanding is that protest prior to 1994 was a crime. So under the Riotous Assembly Act of 1956 and others like the suppression of communism, they actually banned the gathering and the organizing of anything really where people would gather together. So it was seen as communism. So even carrying of like placards and just a number of people that get together, it was seen as subversion, like you're trying to, rise against the state. So the legislation gave carte blanche, I would say, to the state to deal with anything that they deemed to be communism. And communism in the act was defined very broadly to even include a call for political change, social, or even any economic change, which is what people actually wanted. So it was criminalized. So why is that important? It is important to know that because it has shaped how people in communities today see protest. So it is no longer unlawful now to do it, but the way that it's been done over the years, it's been that you have to do something that is illegal for you to be heard, right? Because it was criminalized. Now, the paradox comes in when in 1996, the Constitution turned that upside down. Now, Section 17 actually of the Constitution, it protects the rights of people to protest. But there's a provision with that, is that it has to be peaceful and it has to be unarmed. And most importantly, from some of the other regulations, like the Regulation of Gathering Act of 1993, it has a very specific provision there that, and it's not to ask for a right, but it has to be informed by certain things. You have to inform that you're going to have that. It has to be organized. There have to be safety protocols and all of those things which people don't really, look at or really understand. So there was no socialization of the criminal element into being the highest right on land. So that was not socialized. I think that's where the biggest problem is.
So you're saying there's a bit of a relic from wanting to defy the ban on protests and the crackdown and clamp down on protests that we continue to carry. What are its implications for the trend as far as protests are concerned? Do we have peacefully and unarmed as required by the section you just quoted in the Constitution being the norm and the violent protests being the aberration?
Well, the biggest problem with that now is that, remember, in the past, there were groups. There was the group that was excluded and the group that excluded the group that is not included. So anything and everything that was done that was seen as defiance was towards that group. So the dynamics of today are different. What happens in the township when there are tires burned on the road and there is a spaza shop that is being looted? It is the very same people of the same communities that are being affected by a change that is not necessarily directed at them, but it's somebody else, and they're the ones who suffer. So it's counterintuitive the way that currently we are looking at protest. It's really not working. So we need to really look at how we change the way that we use these rights so that we get better results out of it. Because how it's happening right now is communities that are hurting communities, schools are being destroyed, and clinics, and even shops that appoint the very same people that are in the very same communities. So I think that's the conversation we need to have as to how do we do it correctly, and how does the state also need to respond, because the onus is not just on people, it's on the state as well on how to respond.
Yeah, just very briefly then, Musi, what's the best thinking about how we start to reimagine protests such that it is effective but removing some of the detrimental elements that are associated with some of the violence that occurs?
I think the first thing is we need to go back and in very simple language and have an educational campaign of some sort that actually explains to people what protest is and what it means to protest. Like, for example, when there's going to be a protest, there has to be trained marshals, it has to be organized, and the people that are doing it has to be known who they are so that they can make sure that there are routes that are agreed, for example, with the JMPD or the SAPS, and there are lanes that are going to be, so it's organized, and the communications and the care that comes out of that has to be quite organized. You know, it's the organization of the whole thing that needs to be done in respect of that, so that whatever it is that is a dissent can be sent and can be received by the individuals that need to receive it, so that they are given a chance to respond. Because right now we don't give the people that need to respond a chance to respond. We destroy up front and then expect a response. And I don't think it works like that. And then I think on the other side, the leadership duty as well is that there has to be a street level restoration dates of things that people are dissenting about. For example, if a municipality, there's a service delivery protest, and then the people are protesting and they say this is the problem, and it has to be acknowledged, one, and there has to be some type of a dashboard of some sort where people can see that we've heard you, this is the plan, this is the timeline. People just want communication, really, rather than promises that might not materialize.
All right, Muzi, thank you. You've gotten us thinking about some of these matters. That's Muzi Dladla, Executive Manager, Stakeholder Management at Sasria. Let's go straight to N. Musa.
Outsurance will go up
daily. SAFM, setting the nationwide agenda 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 daily. 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 Daily.
Get an Outsurance car insurance quote today. You heard it here. If Outsurance can't beat your car insurance premium, ask them for 500 Rand cash and make that 1,500 Rand cash if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Savings or cash, you always get something out. Get a quick and easy quote today. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, cricket, the Proteas women captain Laura Wolfart says their ODI series against Pakistan is the perfect dress rehearsal for the World Cup. And in soccer, Mikel Arteta vows to change Arsenal's Champions League legacy after their painful semi-final loss last season. All the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily that's my point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people. The second hour of the morning brief here on SAFM 104 to 107 nationwide. We are leading the conversations that move us. Speaking of that, I love the mix of messages that are coming through. I'm getting the sense now, the more we do this, just fusing in some of your messages, that some of you, which is natural anyway, are better at expressing yourselves in writing. So when you put it down in writing, it comes across much, much better. So that's why I'm committing to ensuring that at some point during the show, we reflect the messages that are coming through from those of you who don't necessarily want to put your voice on the radio, don't necessarily want to call or send a voice note. So I welcome that indeed. Let me go to this one. The first one is from Machetla from Moramadi, who says, supporters of Sundowns and Chiefs praise Pirates for playing good football. What is wrong when President Ramaphosa praises DA-run municipalities? Can you call that an own goal? What happened to sincerity? Machetla, I see what you did there. I get the point you are making about sincerity and acknowledging your rivals' strengths, etc. But I don't know. Something tells me that first line about supporters of Sundowns and Chiefs praising Pirates for playing good football, it's no mistake. You meant for that to read in that particular way. Thank you for that. And then someone else says, in relation to calling people names and the debate we've been having since yesterday, says a swear word is not an insult. To accuse someone of being a liar is not an insult if he or she is indeed a liar. It may be said to be an insult if he is not. And I agree with that sentiment completely. That's why truth and in the public interest is a defense when someone is accused, when you accuse someone of defaming you. That if it's the truth, it is the truth. It doesn't detract from the point I was making earlier on. Someone else then says, so if somebody is a fool or stupid, how do you suggest I express who they are? I will not say anything further. It would be unfair of me to prosecute this debate any further. You've heard my point. You know what my stance is. Let me go to this one. Someone is asking here, why are Free State mayors refusing to resign as instructed by the provincial secretary? This is from Mr. MF. I'm not aware of that story. Mr. MF, thank you for flagging it. Let's see if we can get something, on it and see if we can follow through on that particular story. And lastly, let me read this message from this person says, what do we call a man who changed his surname to the wife's surname? We have Makoti and Mkwenyana, bride and bridegroom. So this one is called what? Asks King David in Sandton. I don't know, King David. I don't know. Is it necessary to attach a label and a tag to it? Especially given that, as we've been saying, that no one will be forced into adopting this practice. Only those who want to do that will be able to do that as per that decision of the Constitutional Court. I don't have any bright ideas. Maybe someone might have, but I'm asking, is it necessary to even attach a tag to it all? But I get the sense and the spirit in which you make that comment. All right, do call me 086 000 2032, or let's engage on WhatsApp. Actually, you can even send a WhatsApp message or a voice note on 0614 104 107. Let's get into it then, the third hour of the morning brief on this Tuesday.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195, and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Who's behind the mask? A singing pineapple? A disco dancing dokolosh? It can only mean one thing. It's the Masked Singer US Season 9, the only show where celebrities hide behind wild costumes and even wilder vocals. Is that Beyonce? No. It's your dentist dressed as a giant taco. Unmask the madness, the mystery, and the mayhem. Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. on S3. S3's got the masks, the music, and maybe your favorite celeb in a flamingo suit. Don't miss it.
The SABC is proud to partner with Africa's biggest marketing conference, the Nedbank IMC. One day, 25 top speakers, including 6 global keynotes. The theme this year is Marketing is Business, and anyone in the business of communication should be there. The conference is taking place on the 18th of September in person in Johannesburg or online. Book now at imcconference.com. Marketing is business.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAFM. Leading the conversation.
All right, let's turn to this story. The country has taken some of its final steps towards exiting the global financial grey list of the Financial Action Task Force. This after hosting an international assessment team in Pretoria this past week. The FATF Africa Joint Group inspected the country's anti-money laundering and counter-terror financing reforms to verify progress. Officials say South Africa has now completed all 22 action items that were required since being grey-listed in 2023. A decision on whether the country is officially removed will then be made by FATF at the plenary in October this year. Let's welcome Harry Scherzer, who is CEO of Future Forex, to reflect on that. So, good morning to you and thank you for your time, Harry. The visit by the FATF Africa Joint Group inspection last week, where does it place us on this trajectory from 2023, finding ourselves on this grey list we did not want to be on, and its implications? Where does it leave us then on that trajectory towards being removed from the grey list?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and great to be on. For once, it's a piece of good news. Recently, it seems like there's been only bad news in the finance space in South Africa. Yeah, but I'm really glad to be chatting about this, because what it looks like is that in October, we're likely to be removed from the grey list, which, as you said, we were put on in February 2023. So it's been 2.5 years of being on the grey list. And being on a grey list basically puts you at higher risk as a country for, as you say, money laundering, financing of terrorism. And so as a result, it's very difficult for South African businesses to work with international partners, because the international partners need to perform extra checks to ensure that the money is clean. And for 99.99% of businesses who do have clean funds going through, they have to jump through hoops effectively to work with international partners. And finally, because we've made more strict internal controls in South Africa, international parties no longer are going to need to do these extra checks, which will make it much easier to do international business.
What's your reflection on how useful a blessing in disguise, let me use that expression, how much of a blessing in disguise this whole grey listing has been in terms of objectively the issues that we needed to address, as far as weaknesses around terror financing, as well as financial oversight and prosecutions, the capacity to prosecute commercial crimes is concerned?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a real wake-up call for us, because we almost thought we were too good to be put on the grey list. And then when it happened, we realized we needed to pick up our socks and actually perform real checks on all businesses and ensure we put people away who are involved in illicit and criminal activity. So what happened was we were almost on a downward trajectory. And suddenly, after Feb 2023, we switched that entirely. And I was very impressed with our financial systems within South Africa and our governance, being able to complete all 22 action items within 2.5 years. I mean, that's extremely quick. You have countries being on the grey list for a lot longer than that, and even then, many don't ever make it out. So I've been very impressed with the turnaround, but pre-2023, you're 100% right. We were going the wrong direction, so it was almost a good thing that we were put on the grey list.
But are we satisfied, though? There were 22 action items. Are we satisfied? In particular, I think much focus falls on the prosecution capacity for complex commercial crimes, money laundering, racketeering and the likes. Can we really say that we've addressed that? I know that the NPA puts out stats about the work that they are doing, but I'm just wondering to what extent is that borne out by reality, for instance, around questions of prosecuting the so-called gold mafia, for example?
Look, Thulasizwe, it's not like we are the best in the world at this, but we were far worse, and we're definitely in an upwards direction. So what we need to do is make sure that when we are taken off the grey list, we don't suddenly stop improving our processes. We need to keep improving things, even past being off the grey list. Number one, to ensure we are not put back on the grey list, but number two, to ensure that we get better and better at making sure that only clean funds are able to transact easily within the country, which would boost investor confidence even further if they see that we have a very clean set of funds within the country. So really, it's not saying that we're currently excellent at it, but we're significantly better than we were, so much so that the Financial Action Task Force has said, you guys are now good enough, or they're about to say rather, you're now good enough to be removed from the grey list entirely.
And how do we maintain the momentum? What are the factors that will be critical at a governance level that will make us maintain the momentum between this moment, even after being removed from the grey list, such that in 5, 7, 10 years' time, we're not talking about having regressed in some of the areas of governance and institutions that are critical in addressing these matters?
Yeah, so Thulasizwe, it's a hard question, because really what it comes down to is mindset. It's the mindset of the government. What the government needs to do is they need to almost pretend that they're fighting to get off the grey list all the time. If they can continually see it that way in their own minds, they will continue to impose strict checks internally and continue to improve things. If on the opposite side we decide, well, now we're off the grey list, we're going to just be more lax, we're suddenly going to yo-yo onto the grey list, off the grey list, onto the grey list, off the grey list. So it's really important for investor confidence and ultimately for our GDP to ensure that we continually improve our checks and don't get lax now that we're off the grey list. And that's going to be a mindset shift from the government to basically say, even though we're off the grey list, we're still almost pretending we're on it and trying to get out to ensure that our internal AML and counter-terrorist financing checks are as strong as possible.
I get the point you're making. Thank you for that. That's Harry Scherzer, who is CEO of Future Forex, talking there about maintaining the mindset that says work as if you remain in the grey list even after you exit. And if you continue to do that, you may be able to maintain the momentum that you've been able to build over this period of time that you were trying to get out of the grey list.
We all know a Miss Sarah, that parent who randomly calls to check up on you.
Mjanam, when are you visiting?
She knows that every call or text goes towards her free funeral cover. She'll keep calling until she spent at least 120 Rand a month.
Mara, why haven't you accepted my friend request? Huh?
For every convo or scroll, you get 10,000 Rand free funeral cover. Recharge with 120 Rand every month to get covered. No paperwork, debit orders, or medicals. Recharge on the VodaPay app or dial *123#. T's and C's apply. Underwritten by Vodacom Life Assurance Company, a licensed life insurer. Further together, Vodacom.
Mzansi, 133 million Rand in total guaranteed Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots could change your life this Tuesday. That's right. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 70 million Rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 63 million Rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, Play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me go to the man of the moment. Man of the moment, Putana in Rosebank. Putana, you have fans. When you don't call, I get called. Where is Putana? And you make people's days. Talk to me. What do you want to say about ANC councillors?
Good morning, my brother. Good morning.
Good morning.
Capacity dololo. But what pains me, Ramaphosa, President, you outsource it to Stellenbosch to build capacity of your people. Stellenbosch, out of all people. Why can't they remove them? But I agree with them. Those people are making bad decisions. Bad decisions. You know, it pains me up until now when they put the forensic chief auditor, get him murdered. The next thing they say, well, we are not going to intimidate us. The auditor has been murdered. For what?
Yeah.
For what?
Yeah.
Crookedness that is there. And you cannot capacitate crooks. You cannot professionalize crooks. You cannot. Those people don't belong to local government. They don't even belong to provincial or national government. Check what they did with those ones that were destroying some municipality here. They sent them to CETA. To do what?
Sure.
CETA to do what? They cannot account fully up with 164 billion in CETA.
All right.
The problem with the ANC, they must accept that they are unable to govern this country. They must accept it. And this problem, lack of capacity, it belongs to them, ANC. By the way, the ANC that have 40%, 60% of us, we wanted it out of government.
All right, Putana, thank you for those reflections. Putana in Rosebank, making some pretty strong points there about some of what President Ramaphosa and the leadership of the ANC has been making about lessons to be learned in other municipalities, especially DA-led municipalities, but also that whole turnaround. Putana saying that it's almost impossible to capacitate people who are crooked.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Oh, what's with the cap? Who approved this dress code?
What dress code?
Should I refer to FIFA and see if that
if I'm allowed?
Talk to me about what Laura Wolfhard has been saying about the ODI series against Pakistan?
Sure, Thulas, it's going to be a busy morning. But luckily, Laura Wolfart, the Proteas, they are not ghosting Pakistan. They're ready to face those tricky spinners. They begin their 3-match ODI series today. It's a crucial step in their prep for the upcoming World Cup. Captain Wolfart says the team is focused on adapting to these subcontinent conditions, the heat, the humidity, and as well as Pakistan's spin attack.
Yeah, this series is super crucial for us. Obviously, heading into that World Cup, getting to be in the subcontinent before is a massive opportunity. I think getting used to conditions, getting used to how hot it is, obviously coming from winter at home, it's been a bit of an adjustment. And just to play cricket together again as a group. I think we've last played together like maybe 5-6 weeks ago, so just to get some momentum leading into a big tournament like that will be huge.
On to soccer, Orlando Pirates attacker Oswin Apollos has credited coach Kwanele Kopo for reigniting his career at a time when he was on the verge of quitting football. Pirates return to CAF Champions League action this weekend. They face Lesotho outfit Lioli FC in the preliminary round.
Playing CAF, it's a whole different level. That's all I can say. And I believe that Ossie has the experience in playing CAF because he's been playing Bafana. He was one of the young boys that was in the AFCON squad.
Mm-hmm.
So coming to play CAF, it's going to help us a lot because with the experience that it comes with playing for Bafana, playing against Nigeria, all these people from Europe, I believe that it's something that it's going to also take our game to the next level as Orlando Pirates. And having these players around us, I believe that it rubs because him saying he was hungry to be there, it shows that he's looking forward to playing CAF. He's looking forward to getting us to that stage again, to getting us to the final where we couldn't go on. So I believe that it's something that's really incredible and a great feeling.
That's Talent Mbata here on the Morning Brief. Let's go to Arsenal manager now, Mikel Arteta, hoping to use the painful memories of last season's Champions League semi-final exit to drive the Gunners to a maiden title. The North London club begin their latest bid for a prize tonight, visiting Spanish club Athletic Bilbao.
Well, that tells you with our long history how difficult it is because we haven't won it yet. And that's the opportunity. That's how I see it. You know, the pressure is the opportunity that thrives that energy, that willingness to be better every single day, to make decisions that are in that direction. And every decision, then if we win not that much, every decision has to be with that standards and with those expectations.
And that's your sport on the Morning Brief. We're going to hand the sporting mic over to John Hediker around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines,
the reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Yeah. Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first.
Dowling for one more update for the morning. Dowling with an update in which she'll be looking at, what's been coming out of the insurance sector. And Dowling, in fact, let's start there. Outsurance, getting something out.
That's right. And I was about to start exactly that way. Earnings there
surging
at 30%, over 30% during the annual period. And Outsurance has pointed to proceeds from the sale of UI's stake in Blue Zebra Insurance and the continued disposal of non-core assets. Gross written premiums in the property and casualty division grew by close to 17%, supported by strong contributions from UI Direct and Outsurance South Africa, alongside premium inflation. Despite this momentum, growth in rand terms was dampened by the local currency's appreciation against the Australian dollar and the shrinking of premiums from UI's broker channel, which remains in runoff. And looking at, or rather now, the upbeat performance allowed the insurer to hike its total payout by 36.2%, as well as a special dividend. This was a welcomed move by markets, with investors cheering the financials and dividends. Outsurance closed over 7% higher in yesterday's session, and year to date, that share price is up 16.6%.
Let's talk Southern Sun and the numbers coming out of that group.
Yep.
Tell me about their offshore operations. You're saying those are sort of weighing on overall performance.
Yeah, the hotel group has warned of a mixed performance. While its SA hotels have delivered growth, this was offset by weaker offshore performance and rising expenses. In the domestic market, demand from conferences and events in Gauteng and the Western Cape boosted occupancies to 59.2%, up from 57.6% a year earlier. Higher average room rates also supported growth, climbing by nearly 7% and lifting room revenue by close to 10%. As mentioned, the picture less positive outside South Africa, where occupancies dropped to 33.4% from 46.5%. And this was largely due to the temporary shutdown of the Paradise Sun Resort in the Seychelles for renovations, which cost the group about 30 million rand after tax, while operations in Mozambique and Tanzania also remained subdued. Now, despite these offshore setbacks, the company is pushing ahead with its investment program. Refurbishments are underway at several properties, and new developments are planned for Cape Town's Foreshore District and at Oceans Umhlanga in KZN.
Lastly, Dowling, what kind of a trading day can we expect on this Tuesday?
So the JSE likely to start the day mixed, a theme really playing out in international markets. In terms of company news, financials out from property companies Attack and Hyprop, as well as food producer Lipster. So lots to digest at the open. Over in currency markets, the rand trades at near 10-month highs, benefiting from a softer dollar. It is sitting at 17.33 to the greenback this hour. Then in the commodities scene, investors reacting to geopolitical developments, threats on Russian oil supply boosting Brent this hour. It's trading above $67 per barrel. And then back to equities, investors sitting tight and waiting on interest rates decisions from the Fed, Bank of England, and Bank of Japan. Ahead of those moves, US futures are in the green, while Asian stocks are on track to close the day mixed.
All right, Dowling, thank you for today. That's Dowling Lechela, who's kept you updated on business, economics, and the markets throughout the course of the show this morning.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Right, let me play one or two of your voice notes. Let me actually start with the ones that came in much earlier. Some reflections on the ANC as well as the comments made by President Ramaphosa in his capacity as president of the ANC.
Finally, the ANC telling the truth, some truth. So it's a good thing.
Thulasizwe, on the issue of the president, has he seen the conditions of black townships in the DA-run municipalities? You see, this is the problem that we have when we have billionaire presidents that valorize and seek to try and reproduce, whiteness and white dominance. It's simply because he doesn't know the black conditions of residents in those particular municipalities. What a shame. Lucanio from Kabeja.
Back button. Tap to activate. Good morning, Thulas. It's Mr. Suleiman. Thulas, if you look at our daily living, look at the number of issues that we need sorted out. It's way under 4,000. But you got 4,000 councillors. No, Thulas. They're all still on the bandwagon and now they've increased in numbers now. No, this won't work, Thulas. ANC is kaput. Thank you, bye.
Hey, Mr. Suleiman, you challenged my mind there. I had to pause and try and think the point and understand the point you are making. So you're saying, because we're saying that it was a gathering of over 4,000, of about 4,500 thereabouts councillors, you're saying the issues we have don't number that much. So why do we need that many councillors? I am Mr. Suleiman. So the whole point is this is the division of the country into wards. So you have ward by ward, and I think it's about 4,000 wards, is it? I could be wrong. Yeah? Okay. I might expose myself here. But yeah, that's the situation. It's based on the number of wards at local government. So you then have a ward councillor and a PR councillor. You'll know this, of course, from the elections. It's not about the number of issues faced. It's a system that we chose and said, this is how we're going to structure governance. Dispersal of power such that no single individual or institution has all the power, and the assigning of different responsibilities, I think, is the basis. The number is quite high, as you argue, but I don't know. What's the alternative? Let me go to this one. Someone wants to reflect on the comments in the conversation we had with Professor Vivi O. Mkhize about the question of wearing ispandla.
Good morning, Thulasizwe. With regards to the conversation you had with Professor Mkhize, the founder of Msamo, I definitely agree with everything he said, and he makes very valid points. FIFA was supposed to be told by SAFA of our cultural costumes and our attires and its significance for us as South Africans in South Africa, and it was never going to be in conflict with their rules and policies of FIFA. Daniel here in Bryanston.
Thank you for that, as always. Just one of the issues that are in the mix in the conversation this morning. Let me go to Luvo in Kabeja. Good morning to you, Luvo. You want to reflect on the idea and this whole debate about calling the president names, yeah?
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Simply one of the best radio podcasters I've ever listened to.
I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thulas, Khotso, say that word. I won't mention it again. But for me, the way you have treated Khotso, I don't think it was really fair. Because why I'm saying this, Thulas, when the same politicians are stealing our money, corruption, everything, nobody calls them in order. Because they get away with it. But now, why we as citizens of South Africa, when we are very angry, sometimes when we are angry to us, you say things that you didn't want to say because you're angry. And nobody to us as South Africans. Now, the frustration of Khotso, on my side, I do understand it.
Yes.
But now, on the other side, I don't understand the callers who criticize him. And I don't understand the way also you have taken the whole thing, you just cut him off. You could have allowed him to say whatever he wanted to say at the end. And then you can tell him, Khotso, there are rules and regulations here. But those rules and regulations, I would appreciate if they can also apply to so-called our leaders.
Yeah. I hear you, Luvo. Can I just state categorically, without fear of contradiction, I did not cut him off. What I did do is whenever he would get onto his point, I tried to encourage him to say, take it from there and run with it, taking into account the issue I had raised. Secondly, I've moved on from that whole debate. I think Khotso adds value to the conversations on this show. He has unique perspectives. He feels strongly. I understand his frustration and I welcome him calling again. In fact, if I could, I would reach out to him and say, no love lost. That's not the expression I want to use. That means the opposite. Nothing, no harm done. The relationship of engagement continues. We disagreed on one thing. Doesn't mean we disagree on everything. And it doesn't mean that the platform should be deprived from him. But I also take the point you are making about sometimes it should be protest broadcasting, protest radio that says the citizens are fed up. But how do you then balance that with the culture of dialogue we're trying to build?
That's why I call you. You're simply the best in what you do.
Thank you, Luvo. I appreciate that.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for your engagement. That's Luvo in Gqeberha. Let me go to Thabo in Kronstadt. Good morning to you, Thabo.
Good morning, Thulas. Thulas, I'm happy with what President Ramaphosa had said yesterday.
Sure.
To release himself to say he don't know how to provide service delivery. He's a one man who we were hoping that he's going to know how to drive the ship forward.
Yeah.
And you got somebody, I'm a whitehead, 76 years old, and we study the situation, how to run a private state surrounded by private entities.
Yeah.
It's very difficult if you don't know to us. And South Africa is not a democratic country to say it's a solid state. Private state is the townships, and the private entities is a land around South Africa. You must know how to run it. And now, I'm happy, Thulas. We must not say a lot because we are going to the election. You will give these people ANC, as now President Ramaphosa, he send them to DA because he don't have anything to can tell them how to do service delivery, to give service to people, animals, environment. I got them, it's written, the books are already there, ready. Now we must know, give me that platform to say, one man, President Ramaphosa, say, don't know how to do service delivery. One man, which is me, we know, we went to study the situation, how to run private state in South Africa.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm there, and then I'm going to challenge until I get the seat to help. I'm ready to help South Africa.
Yeah. Thank you,
One
Thabo.
man doesn't know, one man say, I know.
Absolutely. That's Thabo out in Kronstadt. Thank you for that contribution. Let me move to Stephen in Matatiele. Good morning, Stephen.
Morning, Julie.
Yeah.
How are you?
Very well. How are you?
Good, thank you. Okay, it's my first time speaking to you.
Welcome. We've been waiting for you.
Yeah. Julie Sile, you know what? I've been listening to your show this morning and listening to that clip from our president, Mr. Ramaphosa, all right? He has now confirmed what Jeff Khatebe had said, that the arrogance of the ANC people, councillors, and that is where the problem comes in. They are supposed to be serving the community, but how do they service the community when they are in loggerheads with the municipality, MMC, and the mayor? Because they can go to meetings and then they just get shouted down if it doesn't suit the MMC or the MM or the mayor.
Yeah.
This is the problem. Is there's no continuity between a councillor going to council, putting their facts on the table and saying, chaps, the community are complaining about this. They're complaining about that. We need to do something about it. So if nobody above or their arrogance towards the lower people is not going to help at all.
All right, Stephen, thank you for that point. That's Stephen out in Matatiele. Let me go to Alba. Is it Alba in Sky City?
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes, it's Alba speaking. How are you?
Yes, very well. How are you?
I'm all right. Papa Simelane, I was listening to the professor.
Wait, Alba, say it again. What did you call me?
Papa Simelane.
Yeah. Must I go deeper? Go deeper, Papa.
Yeah.
Papa must go deeper.
Papa must go deeper.
All right, go ahead.
Yes. But look at it this way. The professor that you interviewed earlier on regarding Ispandla and that player, I believe that his perspective, he was looking at it from one perspective for somebody who is for Ispandla. That is a religious practice from where I'm sitting. And playing soccer, it's a work. It's a job for that player. And I do believe that even you on your side, you have seen people who have quit their jobs. Maybe somebody who goes to a Seventh-day Adventist church whereby at work they were expected to work on a Saturday. They quit the job because of their religious belief and say, this does not work for me. They want to look for other jobs because of their religious belief. But look at it from another perspective, from a player who says, I'm not comfortable playing against somebody because soccer is a contact sport. So I'm not comfortable playing with somebody who is wearing a Ispandla for religious reasons. So in another way, the FIFA rules are meant to protect both players. Somebody who is not comfortable playing against somebody who is wearing a Ispandla. You get what I'm saying? Because the professor is speaking from one perspective of saying he is pro Ispandla. But what about somebody who is totally against Ispandla? That is one angle. Also, looking at it on a South African basis, it's fine. But what if when South Africa plays against the US? You see, because FIFA make rules for everybody to accommodate everybody. And what about the day whereby another team says,
Alba,
for my religious reasons, I want to work.
Very quickly, let me engage you, Alba, though. Must it always come down to that binary? Can't I come as a human being, complete as I am, with the systems and beliefs and everything and personality and other traits that make me, and bring that into the world and bring that including into the world of work? Is there no room? Should it always come down to a difficult choice between adhering to my religion and practicing the profession that I want to practice? Must it always come down to that, even when it can be avoided?
It can be avoided sometimes, but sometimes it can be avoided. But there are times whereby, if you come as you are with all your belief system, it's gonna infringe on other people's belief system, whereby they are no longer comfortable because you'll be in contact with other people. So then their rights are being infringed. But you, on the other hand, you're 100% right. Yours, everything is fine. It's above board. You're comfortable.
All right, Alba, thank you for that. That's Alba in Sky City. We'll see if we can squeeze in a few more before we go.
SAFM.
Let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people. Change your life this Tuesday. That's right. Play Powerball for the guaranteed 70 million rand and Powerball Plus for the guaranteed 63 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years or older. Play responsibly. Ituba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
All right, before we do that, let's deal with this story. The Constitutional Court today set to hear a landmark case that could decide the future of oil and gas exploration off the country's wild coast. At issue are seismic surveys and exploration rights that were granted Shell and Impact Africa back in 2014, which the courts have already found were unlawfully issued due to poor consultation with affected communities. While the Supreme Court of Appeal upheld those findings, it controversially suspended the invalidation to allow Shell to seek a renewal of rights. Wild coast communities and environmental groups are arguing that this suspension perpetuates an illegality and undermines their constitutional, cultural, and livelihood rights. Let's make sense of it all. Neville Van Roy, Community Outreach Coordinator at the Green Connection. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Just outline for us the issues at stake in these arguments that will be presented at the Constitutional Court today.
Good morning to you and good morning to the listeners. And once again, thank you for this opportunity. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. So the eco-justice organizations from right around the country are standing up really to make the same plea that really we are in a climate crisis and we deserve the right to a clean ocean. The constitutional rights affirm that, saying that we need an environment that is not harmful to the health and the well-being. And there are marginalized communities around the coast that is so dependent on the oceans for their livelihoods, to put bread on the table. And here we have an abuser that has already abused our fellow Africans in the Niger Delta and does refuse to clean up the heavy pollution and has gotten fishermen destitute, not being able to continue their livelihoods, now wanting to do it in our waters. And therefore, we are standing up and we want to make it clear that we will use all means at our disposal, including the court procedures, to make our voices heard in these matters, to say that this company cannot do this because the ocean is already exposed to climate catastrophes and weather patterns that is changing. And on top of it, we're talking about a fossil fuel that exacerbates climate change here that they want to do in the ocean, looking for the oil. And therefore, communities are now raising their voices and making their voices heard, standing on the rights of the Constitution and also the National Environmental Management Act that says there needs to be public participation, and they fail to effectively and meaningfully consult communities that is dependent upon that ocean.
Would I be correct in reading it as it's not just about the technicality of the degree and effectiveness of consultation undertaken ahead of these processes and granting of these licenses, that for you it's fundamentally about the activity itself, the economic activity itself, and the exploration itself, whatever the government says about, a possible chilling effect on investment of some of the opposition we are seeing here?
Yes, we have also looked at even the economic effects that this will have an impact. We're now saying that will this even create jobs? We have that being promoted by government and these industries. And when we look into that, it's not even effective jobs. And then we're talking about the strong local economies that is people dependent on. So that economy is under threat as well for present and future generations we are talking about here. So it's not just technicalities, but when we even deep dive into it, we're now faced with ecosystems destruction that's in the process as well. And then also the law, according to the Paris Agreement, which South Africa is a signatory to move away from the oil and gas. Now they want to continue with the oil and gas, so it's contradicting. And why are our governments now continuing to do new fossil fuels, and at what cost? for the country and the economic future of our country, where there is other safer and cleaner alternatives to be taken into account, which they don't want to do. So this is the challenge we're sitting with, and this is the fears and our concern.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. Neville Van Roy, who is Community Outreach Coordinator at the Green Collection.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Let me take one or two of your voice notes before we go.
Morning, Thulas. When you deal with the issue of Shell and the issue at the Apex of the CC Consult Court, you must also deal with the issue of funding. There is transparency in South Africa. Who's funding this NGO that has the capacity to take the might of the government into court? Can you kindly please reflect on that? Who's funding them? So that you might know the political agenda. What is the agenda here? Major from Katem.
Major, thank you for that. It's an important and interesting point to tease out. As a topic on its own, the funding of non-governmental organizations, is it necessarily problematic in instances where, sometimes there's opposition of this nature and you are saying that who's funding them and what political agendas are they driving for them to be able to take on the might of the government? That's the one side of the argument. But the other side of the argument that you hear from time to time is who's funding these NGOs, non-governmental organizations, civil society, that at times will step in and plug the gap where there are failures of governance. So two sides to it, but it would be interesting to have a conversation about funding of civil society, non-governmental organizations. Is it always necessarily problematic, or is it always necessarily innocuous? So I think we've set it up nicely. Let's see what we can do in the coming days to set up and explore and tease out that particular debate. That's it. That's our story for today. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your robust engagement as always. The Talking Point with Kathy Mushlahlana is up next here on SAFM after the news with Ann Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily That's My Point feature. So, did you see Cristiano Ronaldo cry yesterday?
This is SAFM. This is SAFM.
Just tell me about how this concert series fits in with what you are trying to do with these young people.
The reality is that private funders do not just thoughtlessly throw their resources around.
It is one thing to get a backtrack like that for a finance guy, hey?
Somebody just WhatsApped me to say that she has a daughter who has hearing loss.
Corruption in South Africa has reached disgraceful levels.
First things first, let's get to my daily, that's my point.